Rob, how you doing,
Good,
man?
Eric Grumman. How you doing?
I'm doing real good. Thank you for being
Thanks for
here.
having me.
Uh, I've been wanting to talk to you. It's uh, it's kind of funny how I got to tell the story about when I first talked to you last week, and we hopped on a Zoom call just to kind of plan this podcast. And the minute you jumped on and you had the Cadex cap on, I was like, because I've been trying to get a hold of you for a couple of weeks or so. And when I saw the Cadex cap, I knew I had an immediate connection that I didn't know about because Chase had just been here like 2 weeks
Yeah,
before,
yeah,
and one thing that you don't know, after we got off the call, I called Chase and I said, "Hey, let me tell you a story." I said, "I'm not going to tell you who it is, but been trying to get a hold of him for a couple of weeks, and finally, when he jumps on the Zoom call, he has a Cadex cap on." And he laughed. He goes, "Is it Rob?" I go, "Yeah." He go, "This is where it gets even crazier." He goes, "I thought you knew him." I said, "No." He goes, "He was at the booth at Shot Show when you were there." So it turns out you and I were like 10 feet apart, and we just didn't know each
yeah.
other.
Chase and Lauren take the front entrance of the booth. Like, there's not really, I guess, an entrance point, but we have a desk at the front where the receptionist is. Chase and Lauren take that side.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the other side near the Kraken demo, and some of the tables are. So we try and basically provide as much assistance to everybody that's coming into booth and stuff. So yeah, like if you were there, we probably missed each other maybe by minutes.
Yeah, no, he said, he goes, he was there when you were there. He goes, I just thought you knew him. I said, well, I do now. But anyway, um, so before this call is over, we're going to talk about your longest confirmed kill. Okay, just for those that are tuning in, we're gonna talk about it. Okay, but there's a lot of other stuff that I want to talk about before we get into that. Uh, Number one, how do you get to that point? How, in your life, you had to join the military, you had to decide you want to be a sniper. Walk me through that if you can, please.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd story because I know most guys, especially U.S. service people, it's a big long heritage in their family or um, people served around them, and that's kind of what drove them into the military. But for me, it's a little bit of a different story. I was going to school. I was doing a computer programming course, and I was working security, doing a night job down at the dock front, and I was working late nights, kind of doing my studies down there while I was supposed to be working. And you know what? I just left the dock front one morning and driving up to my apartment to get ready to go to school. I passed a recruiting station, and it was a Navy officer putting out a just like a sandwich board on the side of the road, and said Canadian Armed Forces now recruiting. And it was just that moment. I pulled over and went back. I was still in my security uniform, and I was there for a couple of hours. Never made school that day, and something was just. I felt a little, to be honest, Eric. I felt a little bit lost. I was doing something that I've always liked, computers, but it just didn't. It didn't get that energetic rise, I guess, out of me, and I was looking for an adventure. I guess there was no military background in my family. My family comes from a back of like sea captains. That's what my brother does. My dad was actually in law enforcement, and yeah, so I guess I went out and kind of did something different. And as soon as I joined, I immediately fell in love with the camaraderie of all the guys, the structure, the responsibility that's put on the guys, the physical fitness, and of course the marksmanship. Um, Basic training was difficult the first, I'll say, month or so, kind of understanding what's expected of a recruit in basic training, but just learning how to dress and act and respond. And I never knew anything about rank structure, never heard of anything. The only thing I knew about the Army is they wore green. Once I got to battle school, um, I really become in tune with the combat arms side. It's a lot more advanced training, a lot of field craft, um, the small arms program that's within the basic training portion of battle school. And then when I got posted to my unit, I was really fortunate. I got posted to 3 PPCLI, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, and that is an airborne unit. So that was a an eye-opening experience walking in there as a new guy. Um, you really don't talk there unless you're spoken to. Um, there's a very strong hierarchy. There's some guys there with some big backgrounds, a lot of experience, a lot of guys who served in the airborne regiment. After that was disbanded, they moved a lot of those guys to the parachute companies within one Bandu, three Bandu, three RCR, and three PPCLI. So you're falling into ranks with a lot of, we'll call them giants. The expectations on you is to perform at a high level at all times, keep your mouth shut, and do your best to, fall in line and toe the line. I guess it's yeah, it was really really. I was lucky to get in there, is all I can say, I guess. And once I was in there, my first 3 years were as a typical soldier, kind of just learning how to soldier, and I got an opportunity to go on my jump course in, I want to say it was 99. I know some of my buddies going to watch this and be like, you're getting old. It wasn't 99. I think it was 99, 2000 time frame. Went on my jump course. That's your basic para. From there, I was afforded an opportunity to go on my recce course. So you guys call it a reconnaissance course. That's where you learn your field craft, navigation, stuff like that. Once you have that course, that's a prerequisite for being considered for sniper. So before I was ever considered, I had participated in a lot of military shooting competitions, traveled down to Australia and represented Canada and so forth. So I had a lot of experience and time under my belt just with the C7, which is our service rifle in competition, and performed really well. And then I got taken in as OJT, on the job training, in the sniper cell. So befriended Master Corporal Ragsdale. He was the team lead and kind of became a bit of my mentor in there. And spent about, I want to say about 6 to 8 months OJT before I had an opportunity to go on the Sniper Pre. So the Sniper Pre is a 2 week, I want to call it a course or maybe an indoctrination course, and they just beast you for 2 weeks and see who kind of makes it through. So out of that selection, there was probably 30 plus guys. The 1st Battalion in Edmonton sent 4 guys, and 3rd Battalion sent 2. So I was one of the 2 from the 3rd Battalion. Then we were moved to Wainwright for the actual sniper course. And that course started the beginning of September 2001. So we all know what happened in September 2001. So I was actually on my sniper course when that went down. And we started with 15 on our course, and no, 14 on the course, 5 graduated. And on the graduation ceremony in the field, Master Corporal Ragsdale, who had kind of mentored me through the program, he was also an instructor on our course, was taken aside and said, hey, just so you know, you guys just got your warning order for Afghanistan. So I was told the same thing. You guys wouldn't be participating in tonight's activities. Usually there's a little celebration at night, and that we're to report back to our unit and start prepping for the Afghanistan deployment. So long story short, I guess, if that's short, that's kind of how I ended up getting into the military and find my way into the sniper cell.
So how did you decide to become a sniper? Is that a selection process that you have to go through, or you just decide I want to be a sniper?
Um, yeah, I guess, Eric, you have to have a desire. Back then, it was very, very difficult to get in there, to get selected. You had to show a high level of physical fitness. We have what's called a Cooper's test, so you had to be gold standard to qualify to go in there. Um, you had to be selected by your pairs too. That's a big thing. The sniper cell is big on you meeting all the ticks in the box, but because you do, if you're an asshole, they don't want you in there. It's like any of the team stuff. You got to fit in with the guys. It's not a free ride just because you are a good guy, but if you can pass the sniper course or any of the prerequisites, and they kind of like you and think that you can work in small teams, then it furthers your opportunity to get in there. So I don't know. There's obviously a want to be in there, but you got to be selected to also get in there if that kind of makes sense.
So you have to be a team player,
Oh, huge,
obviously,
huge.
right?
Yeah.
What does that mean, really? What does being a team player really mean in the teams?
Be there for your fucking brothers. Like we're getting so far away from that right now, and I mean, I'm not the your probably best PC guest you're going to have on here, and I try to behave when I'm obviously in front of the camera. But to be honest, don't be a fucking idiot. You're in wartime. Your buddy does something, have his back. There's all these stories that are coming out now where guys are getting charged and doing things, and people in society saying, "Well, fuck, that guy shot that guy while he's down on the ground there." And that's fucking bullshit. You're in war. They're going to do the same thing to you. If you want politicians fighting your war, send over to politicians. You want soldiers fighting your war, you want to win, send your soldiers. Um, there's no nice way to put that. There's no you gotta really tear the blinds back on soldiering. Um, there's no such thing as the gentleman soldier. We're way past that. If you go back to the First, Second World War with the British mentality within ranks, yeah, there was a little bit of that on the officer side. That gentleman's war that doesn't exist anymore. That's completely gone. A professional soldier knows how to act on the battlefield, and he knows how to conduct himself on civilian street when he comes back. That's a true soldier, a true warrior. He's able to operate in society, be a beast, but be able to control himself at all times. That's what equivalates a soldier. Um, but also at the same time, don't expect that guy to be politically correct, to be the epitome of a PC left gentleman. Um, that doesn't exist in my mind. That's my personal opinion, but
Yeah, I mean, you guys are put in a real tough place when you have to literally fight for your lives, but at the same time, for some reason, they expect you to be a gentleman about it.
everybody has an opinion, Eric. I mean, you know, if you've been in a recon unit or a sniper unit or in some high level teams where you're operating small numbers, I can relate to that guy. Usually, immediately, you can sniff out your own in a crowd. They're guys who understand that level of brotherhood. It's real hard for me to break it down on a podcast and try to explain it to viewers what that truly means to guys who've done it. Um, there's a lot expected you when you're out in the field, when you're on operations, and then there's a lot expected you when you come back. Um, I don't appreciate when guys come back after being deployed that they're kind of the whipping boy if they step out of line or I mean, and I haven't done much in comparison to some other guys in high level units. Um, but you see some of these guys who are beasted by their government. Um, I'll use an example of here in Canada that was on the public scene months ago, where some of our JTF2 members, who's our higher level tier one units, some of those guys didn't want to get vaccinated, and they alienated those guys. Now, I've heard all the arguments, and I'm not necessarily picking a side here, But I've listened to some guys being like, those guys have done so much, sacrificed so much, marriages, relationships, life, physical health, mental health. Um, and now we just literally throw them to the side. They deserve better than that. And I've heard from friends who were master warrant officers and saying, you're given a fucking order, you follow it, regardless of what it is. So you have both trains of thought, even within the unit. So again, a lot of it comes down to your personal belief. But for me, um, something changes with a lot of those guys when they go over and they operate at that type of level. And I think when they get back, they got to get a little bit of leeway.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously have no idea. I'm never in the military, but uh, I do know quite a few people, and I do respect the sacrifice because that's literally what it is. And you touched on that, on relationships, friendships. That is often the sacrifice that people don't speak about, but it's most of the time the one that they have to make the most.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys who've sacrificed a lot, and there's a lot of guys who made the ultimate sacrifice. We deserve to respect in my mind. And yeah, it's to go back to your question to explain how that is that brotherhood. It's real hard for me to explain that on here. I don't. Maybe I just don't have the ability or the knowledge to explain it. But it's a bond that's there that you want to stand by those guys, and I guess you kind of have to share that to truly understand it.
Now, so you get deployed in 2001, right in September, like immediately after the World Trade Center was attacked. Correct.
Yeah, February 1st.
So, were you a sniper by then?
Yeah,
You were a sniper by
yes,
then, right?
sir. Yeah.
So, what does that mean? So, I know snipers. Do they usually operate in teams of two, or are they bigger teams? How do they
Well,
work?
to be honest, Eric, at the time we were kind of blazing trail, I guess, so to speak. We had just got our McMillan Tac 50s. So Canadian Armed Forces had seen the need. Blake Ives, who's passed away now, he was kind of the forefather in the Canadian sniper community, seeing the need for hard target addiction and saying, hey, like we have no way of meeting these demands. We need heavy sniper rifle capability. So they began testing. Of course, they tested the Barretts and some of the other brand names, but as most guys realized back in those days, the McMillan Tac 50 was a sub MOA sniper rifle, which was kind of really unheard of in those time frames in like 2001, 2002. Your typical sniper rifle in 50 caliber was 2 minutes of angle. So the McMillan was purchased on a trial basis by the Canadian Air Forces. So it was kind of in the testing phase, and we got it. So as soon as I finished my sniper course, you're getting your conversion on the 50 cal, and this thing is a tac driver is the only way to explain it. Um, the ammunition we're using is loaded specifically for us by General Dynamics in Canada. So there's a manufacturer under General Dynamics based out of Ontario who loads specifically for our Canadian weapons. And we're having success out to the 1,800 to 2,000 meters within Canada prior to deploying, and that was my first experience with the 50.
The uh, the 50. Why was the 50 needed? Was it because of the terrain in Afghanistan that you guys knew the shots were going to be long?
No, we deployed with everything we had, including our snowshoes. Like we brought everything, Eric. We didn't know what to expect. The Canadian Armed Forces hadn't deployed since Korea. We got off the airport, and I would love to have been standing next to some of the American troops when the ramp come down on those aircraft, and we start walking off. We're literally walking off with our rucksacks, dressed in green, set of snowshoes strapped to the back of them. We had our Arctic tent toboggans on pallets, and we brought everything. We didn't have a lot, so but we brought everything we had, including the 50s, the 308s. But when we got to Kandahar, one of our first taskings was to place the two Canadian sniper teams, two three-man teams, out on these old towers, whether they were air traffic control towers or forward observation towers, but they were blown out towers, and that was our first tasking. And we realized right away the 308s were completely useless. Our AOR targets could be 3 kilometers plus out there that we're observing moving around at night. So we just primarily used the 50. So when we were deployed on the operation where we made the shot, we just brought the 50 because we knew the 308 for some of the terrain that we're going to be operating would be completely useless. The Americans that were with us, they had 308s. So it'd kind of be redundant for us to bring ours, so we decided to bring the 250s.
So how long had you been there? By the time you got onto that, I'm going to call it a mission, and I'm sorry if I'm not using the proper terminology, but you go on this mission when you've made this, what was it, 1.5 mile shot?
24, 30 meters, yeah.
Had you already, how long had you been there? And had you previously taken some shots that kind of gave you that confidence in the rifle and your
So
dope?
we got in theater February 3rd, February to 4th, 2002. We deployed on Operation Anaconda, which is the one you're referring to, March the 11th, I believe. So we're basically in theater about a month prior to deploying to Bagram for that operation.
Had you taken any shots before out
Oh
there?
yeah,
You kind of gave you some confirmation
oh
of your
yeah. We
dope.
had a training area that we would go out and shoot quite a bit. We were shooting well past 2000 at that point. That terrain was as about as ideal for long range shooting as you can get. A little bit of elevation. You got some forward slope you're shooting into, lots of splash. Yeah, it was what would I call ideal for ELR.
The- uh, it's crazy. ELR didn't really exist back then.
Yeah,
Uh, the so you go on this mission. What,
yeah,
Anaconda? Is
yeah.
that what it was? Um, and what was the objective?
So the Americans were sending in multiple fronts. There was a special operations side that were moving with the ANA, which was um, an Afghan military unit. They were to move in through the Shaikat Valley, um, and we were moving in with the 10th Mountain. There was a scout division. There were some soft units, and we were going to take the higher terrain and cover those guys moving in. Uh, we unfortunately had a blue and blue incident with the ANA guys, and an A10 kind of, I believe it was an A10 ripped through there and kind of cut up some of those guys. So after that, they were very hesitant to move in through the valley. So of course, we kept pushing through to complete the mission. And by the time nightfall started to come on to us, we kind of walked into a little bit of an ambush. We were taking direct machine gun fire, direct mortar fire. We're kind of scrambling to get some high ground and identify those targets. Um, so it was a little bit chaotic, but the whole mission objectives was to uh, capture Osama bin Laden, who had held up in an objective called Ginger. So it was a loud or a large mountain terrain with caves or caverns, whatever you want to call them, and they had information that he was held up in one of these caves. So that was the mission there.
So you guys walked into an ambush. Man, I can't even imagine what that's like. But can you try to paint a picture of how'd you get into, and most importantly, how'd you get out of that?
So, I mean, this has been written about so many times and have happened so long ago. So I'll do my best here. But So what happened was the soft community from the States went up, and this is where uh, like Roberts Ridge kind of went down. Neil Roberts went out the back. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Um, so he was a SEAL. The helicopter got hit by a RPG. They were flying kind of low to the ground, but at extremely high altitudes. He rolls out the back, and of course, they want to go back and get him. But the helicopter had to land because it had taken fire. You had a QRF team made out of Rangers um, sent deployed to that area to do, I guess, a search and recovery mission. They got hit too as well. What they didn't realize is that there was bunkers everywhere up there. They were getting direct machine gun fire. RPGs were being ripped at them. So there's predator footage of all this. Um, so they get shot down as the guys are rolling off the ramp. They're taking direct fire. So a lot of guys were KIA just on the objective there. Um, some from me.
This was on that movie Lone Survivor, is
No,
that it?
no, it's a different.
This is a
It's a
different.
different. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, a PJ and some of the Rangers, I believe, pulled back. I wasn't part of that mission, like up on that objective. But what had happened was when we were deployed, we were actually sent to do overwatch and secure that crash site. So when we got on the ground, we could see the location, and we had to hump up that terrain. So at the time, our rucksacks were nearing a couple of 100 pounds. We had our 50 cal, a C8, which is like you guys call an M4, your pistol, a full loadout. I had 21 mags for my carbine. We had 110 rounds for the 50, food, water, our radio, extra batteries, medical gear. Um, so we had quite a loadout. The other guys, the team lead, he also had communications. We had the M203 on our security guys. So we're distributing the weight around. So what we did is we stashed our bags and started to hump up to that feature. And as we're moving, we can see um, personnel standing on the ridge line. So my spotter stops me and says, okay, let's do a nav check. And we're looking up on the ridge line. So I reached in and grabbed my spotting scope, and I could look it up, and I could see that the guy was wearing American BDU, like a tan top BDU, and had the helmet with the rhino horn on it. And we did have information during the orders that a soft unit was on the high ground and calling in a lot of information to command. So I think that's who this is. Makes sense. The crash site is there. Maybe they got there early. Maybe they're holding the ground. So we kept boogieing. We're just doing nav checks, moving as fast and as stealthy as we can to get up there while dragging a 50. So we stop, we do another nav check, and I say to Tim, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull it to 60. We had two spotting scopes. We had a 40 power and a 60 power. So I dug in the bottom of the bag to grab the 60, and I'm really zooming in on this guy. And I have a look at him, and that's when I had that fuck moment. So what this is this is a Haji wearing America BDUs. So you know what that means. So he's got the top on, and he's got the helmet, and he's got like a CB radio, and it's that extendable silver antenna, if you remember those. And he's got the antenna, so he's actually watching us. So he's up there at that crash site, and I put the fucking devil in me. Like I was pissed at that point, and that was all the motivation that we needed. We started just drilling towards that location. And we left everybody behind us. There was only the three of us that were up at that elevation. Then we get a call over the radio that we were to cancel that order. We're no longer to move into that objective. And I'm guessing because they didn't hold the ground, and that we would have been killed if we had to go in there anyway, because we learned after they had a really strong hold there with all the bunkers and machine gun nests and stuff like that. So um, that was a hard pill to swallow, to kind of turn your back and kind of walk away from that. So we were then given orders to cover the main body as they were pushing in to the Shikot Valley. So just didn't overwatch then until that night.
Wow. So a lot going on. Tired, hungry.
Yeah, you're not thinking of that at the
Um,
time, but yeah.
yeah, but I think I don't. Again, I don't know, but I would imagine that still takes a toll on your body. And the point is, you're not even thinking about it, right? You just driven on. What's the driving force at that point? Adrenaline? Is it taking care of your fellow soldier? What is it?
You're you're fighting for the guy next to you. You know, you often hear the term, king and country type of thing, that type of talk. Yeah, and we're all proud of our country. I'll never ever diminish that. But during the fight, when a mortar's coming down on you and stuff, and you're receiving direct fire, you're not like, "Fuck, I'm doing this for the flag." You're doing it for the guy next to you. That's who you're fighting for at that point. And maybe that's the way it's been taught to you. Maybe that's the secret that the military does. Maybe they teach you that way because they know you'll fight for the guy next to you, not for something 10,000 miles away. Um, but yeah, you're fighting for the guys. You're fighting for your buddies, I think. And what motivates you? If you're from the third battalion, the sense of failure, it's not an option. If you ever come back and you fail at something, you might as well leave. That's kind of ingrained in you. You don't quit for anything. We had an extremely high level of fitness. Um, the third battalion was kind of veered for that in Canada. Um, we had we'd always kept an extremely high level of fitness. You had guys, legends like Mike Capua, who was from the third battalion. He would finish first place in Mountain Man every year, an hour, maybe 2 hours ahead of everybody else. And, that was the pinnacle of fitness in the third battalion. And he was the rabbit. He was what everybody chased and what you were demanded to meet, right? So when we headed to Afghanistan, having that level of fitness really helped us out. But at the same time, we didn't know what we were doing. I'd never operated in high altitudes like that, 8,500, 9,000 feet above sea level. And nobody that I know of trains in that area. So we were lucky we were in good shape, but we didn't know what we were doing working that terrain.
So now you have to do Overwatch for the other teams that are coming in. Uh, I mean, you say it's getting dark. I can't even imagine the level of stress that you guys are under. Because how do you sleep? Do you force yourself to sleep? Do you guys take turns? How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, so that night when we moved into position, um, very first thing we did is we got told, okay, we're going to co-locate with an American scout platoon. So we navved into that area and took a position, start to do our range card, go into our sniper routine. So there's a whole routine when you take up a position. There's responsibilities that you have to do, and your team lead is organizing that. I'm drawing out my range card. The security guys watching our back, um, and then we're starting to make a sleep routine. So what's going to happen? And all of a sudden, that's when we start to engage with mortars. So the whole time we were moving in and navving in, there was little piles of rocks. It was like mini pyramids everywhere, and they were everywhere. Uh, didn't mean a whole lot to me when I was moving in there. Once we got mortared, it was kind of one of those, okay, I know exactly what those piles of rocks were now. So they were marker points. So they had already pre-registered drop points for mortars. So we start to take fire. Um, there was kind of a bivouac site set up where everybody had pushed out cardinal points to hold security, and guys were getting rations, changing their socks, doing a little bit of administration after all day. And when we got hit, everybody went for cover, basically. Uh, Myself and my team leader got on the gun. He actually got on the gun, and I was spotting. So he was able to locate a guy with an AK, shoot behind like what's a piece of corrugated steel, almost what you see culverts made out of. And Tim was actually the first guy to fire a shot on the Anaconda. So he was successfully engaging that guy, and it was about 1,500 meters. Outside of the vehicle, we shot at 800. The personnel shot, that was the closest shot that we took during Anaconda. Um, we had no first round hits, but yeah, we were successful in eliminating targets. Now, for routine on night watch, we'll say after that we would move back one at a time with some of the other American guys to retrieve their equipment because they left quite a bit behind once we start getting modern. So after dark, we had our night vision. We would guide those back, get their guns, get some of their rucksacks, everything that was kind of left behind because they took direct fire. So they just literally had to move now. Then we do what's called hot bagging. So one guy goes down. We only had one bivy bag and a ranger blanket with us. So one guy crawls in, goes to sleep for an hour, gets woken up, switched out. Another guy hops in the bag. So yeah, we just take turns doing Overwatch while the other guy sleeps for an hour, and that's kind of how you get your sleep.
So I'm trying to figure out what that oh shit moment when you realize those little pyramid rocks were actually markers.
Stacks rocks, yeah.
And pretty much, so these guys had been preparing.
Oh yeah, for
Obviously,
generations. I mean, yeah, they were 100% in the know that we were coming, but they also fought the Russians in this exact same spot. So those people have been fighting invaders since the beginning of time. Having us move in through there, I think was just there's just another bunch of dudes coming through the valley. They already probably had a battle plan, knew what they were going to do. They've had to. I mean, who piles up rocks as a marker for a pastime? No, they knew what they were doing. Funniest thing is, nobody told me in battle school when I was walking past a pile of rocks on the ground that might be a pre-registered mortar point. So, yeah, learning on the fly.
yeah, yeah. Dang. Now, what so obviously you guys were taking mortar fire. What is the objective at that point? Get the hell out of here and get safe, or get safe and take them out? What's the process like?
Your When your training kicks in, it's to locate, identify, and eliminate the threat. It does no good just to run. It just happens. Some people react differently, and some people will react differently at different times. Because you stayed in fight at one point doesn't mean you'll always stay in fight. Maybe you'll run next time. I don't know, but uh, at that given time, we just chose to stay and fight, and we'd kind of settled in behind some rocks and kind of had a little bit of a foxhole, just enough to give us some protection. We started looking for targets to engage. We did that until it was dark.
Wow. Yeah, that's gotta suck. I don't know how. I mean, I'm trying to picture it. Obviously, I do not want to be put in that situation, nor do I look forward to it. But like you said, that's where your training kicks in, right? That's when all the training starts to make sense all of a sudden. Correct? I imagine.
100%. If nobody ever trained you to deal with stress that way, and that's why you train under stress, then you're going to have that typical fight or flight, as most people do. And um, most often it's flight. That's just a natural human reaction. So, um, military does a good job of training guys what to do under stress.
You touched on your routine when you guys take on the sniper team takes on a location. What's that checklist? What does it look like?
Well, you're going to make comms, let your command know what position that you've taken up, your arcs, what's your arcs of responsibility, where's any unit that's co-located, where's their location. you got to seek out command. So our team lead, he went and co-located himself with the American command element and got any orders and procedures from those guys. If there's any words command that we need to know, whether it's a light recognition or a passcode or anything, we need to know all those things. While he's doing that, I was back. I'm doing my range card, identifying possible areas where a threat can come from, and then you're pre-registering that, so you're getting a range, identifying what your dope would be, you're doing wind estimations, you're preparing for a possible engagement.
So when you say you're making a range card, you actually write it down, just take notes, and that's so that in case you do have to engage, all the work has already been done, and you can engage in the fastest
Yeah,
time as possible.
yeah,
Is that correct?
100%. You're sketching out just that, a little sketch of the area. Uh, some sketches are better than the others. Some guys are good drawers, some guys aren't. And um, basically, you're determining your arcs, which is given to you by your team lead, and he's saying, okay, your out left of arc is this many degrees, and over here is your right of arc. That's your area of responsibility. So now you do your range card, and you're sketching out the whole area. And let's say, for an example, there's a blown out Toyota Hilux. You'll label that Toyota Hilux, and that could be at 1,800 meters, and it could be a lone tree, and that's exactly what you would label all that. And it's known distances, so that when you get into a firefight, you don't literally have to take your laser rangefinders, stick your head up, and start lasing a target to determine distances. You already have something to start with, and you know what your dope to that distance is.
Yeah. So you lay all this out. Uh, how many different points do you usually map out, or does it depends? I mean, there's some places that I imagine have a lot more uh, possible engagement points than others, I
So your
assume.
range card is a living document. So if you take up your hide, and ours was just temporary, it would be there till daylight, and then we would move. You're not spending a whole lot of time on it. If you got half a dozen to a dozen points on there pre-registered, that's pretty good. But if you were operating, let's say, in Iraq in a hide that you've been holding in that area for months as just strictly an observation point, not a sniper hide, just an observation point. Range cards in there could be extremely detailed, very large, with hundreds of points on there. It just depends of how long that position has been held and what the purpose of it. But for a sniper moving into a hasty hide, half a dozen points, maybe a dozen, that'd be max probably you'd put in there.
Okay. Now, how do you decide who's the spotter and who's the
The
shooter?
most
Is that defined? Is that decided ahead of time, or is that kind of on the moment, on the fly, whoever's
your
closest to the gun?
your team lead is your senior sniper. He's usually your most experienced at spotting. I hate to say this, but it's almost like Ratatouille with the book. Anybody can cook, but anybody could shoot. Um, can everybody shoot 2,500 meters? No. Pretty much all snipers can shoot 1,000 meters. Uh, we can we can make good shooters. I do believe that there are natural shooters, but I believe that our Canadian Forces sniper program can develop really good shooters. It's extremely difficult to develop strong sniper leaders. Master snipers is what we call them. That's their course title, and good spotters. There's people who really struggle with spotting. Maybe it's an eyesight thing, maybe it's a comprehension thing. And then you have some really gifted guys who are just, they can see trace no matter what. Um, and understanding trace. There's one thing to see trace or swirl or wash or vapor or whatever you want to call it. But when you're seeing trace, you have to decipher what the trace is telling you. It's no good just to see it. Um, so your senior guy has the most time behind the spotting scope. That's the guy that you want spotting. And at the time, um, my partner was a master sniper. He was one of the instructors on my basic course. The guy was a machine. Um, and yeah, he was an amazing spotter. So that's where you want to put your talent, is behind the spotting scope, not behind the gun.
So so walk me through where you finally get to the point where you have to make your 1.5 mile shot.
So we're no longer in that position. So that was day one. I think it was around day 8 or 9 when we made that shot. I think we were out there for 11 days. Um,
So you okay? So you were at that height, and then in the morning. So did you in the morning? Did you guys just simply move out and just
yeah,
keep on
we're out before
moving,
it gets
or
daylight. We want to move to our new position that we'd already reckoned out. We knew where the threats were coming from. So then we were going hunting those guys. And that's exactly what we did in the morning.
okay? So between day one and day 7 or 8, was there a lot of
Oh yeah,
action? I don't know if action is the correct
we were
word.
busy. Yeah, yeah. We were surrounded. So if you look on Google Earth and you look at the Shyacot Valley, it's basically a bowl with a couple of re-entrants and a valley entrance. So an ideal place for a sniper on the high ground, not really an ideal place for a sniper when you're on the low ground. A lot of threats for us were on the high ground. They were calling in fire, so we were under observation. We had identified mortar pits, machine gun positions. So our plan in the morning was to get up and start to locate those sites and eliminate the targets. What we found a lot of times that we just didn't have the ability to reach out and engage those targets. They were just too far. So we spent a large majority of our time calling in indirect and direct fire from everything from B-52s to F-16s to Cobras, Apaches, C-130s. Um, we had mortars. So we were relaying all of our information to a guy on the ground who was then relaying that to the aircraft and observing ordnance as they come in and adjusting as necessary. But that's probably one of the biggest things that we did on that mission, was calling in fire.
Yeah, I imagine air support is a huge, just force multiplier, huh?
Gives you an edge. Yeah, yeah. Well, just a little bit of an edge. Uncle Sam has a lot of toys. Yeah, we're if we're depending on the Canadians, I don't know. We might be in trouble. But yeah, you guys had all the toys, and for us, which another thing, Eric, is here you have this kid. I'm 25, I think, at the time. I'd been on one tour in Bosnia, and I played more floor hockey than I did anything else. We used to do tours throughout the day and patrols and stuff like that, but there was never any engagements or anything. It was just basic keeping the peace over there. So I had no experience calling in fast air and working with JTACs, and so I was loving life. This was extremely exciting to me. Um, we got shot at a couple times doing what we were doing by friendlies, being in areas we probably shouldn't have been, outside the safety box. But the whole time, wearing a smile on our face, getting to do things that really nobody had done in Korea. Like, we just hadn't been to war in a long time, and here we were, um, calling in fast air from modern aircraft. So yeah, uh, not to sound like a warmonger, which is probably what the politically left would call you, but yeah, we were really enjoying ourselves doing what we were doing because that's what we were trained to do.
Yeah. The so you guys, how far did you have to move from day one where you first took mortar fire to the point where you finally made that 1.5 mile shot? Were you guys like, I'm trying to place you. Did you guys have to walk a long way, or how did you get from one to the other?
Walking, hiking, moving up those mountains, we were all over the place. So soon as it would get dark, we'd always pull back and co-locate with the Americans. And just before dusk, we would get up and move outside the operations box. We had to. The very first day we got hit, we knew where we were getting hit from. We could see them. We were trying to engage them from that position. Some of those targets were way outside of our range capability with a 50 cal. So we had identified those locations, marked them on our map where we believed them to be, and then myself and Tim said to each other, yeah, we got to go outside the box to do this. We knew what going outside the box meant. We were told in operation, if you go outside the box, you're going to get engaged by fast air or the helicopter. The air support is going to probably engage you. So we had two choices. When 10th Mountain got hit, and they got hit real fucking hard, they dropped their equipment. Some of those guys were pinned. We're like, fuck, do we stay down here and stay in this box? Or do we just go up on high ground and start to hunt these guys where we know they are? So we took it upon ourselves and we went outside the box. And I remember walking past some of the American soft guys. And one of the guys said, you know, you're going outside the box type of thing. I'm like, well, you guys are on the fucking edge of the box too. You're probably just as dangerous as we are. And they said, all right, just kind of see you later. And we went up the mountain. We were just probably above 9,000 at that time, about 9,1, maybe just over. And as we're walking through the snow, we can see the fresh footprints that are in the snow, so we know we're in the right area. It was while we were up there, we were successful in eliminating mortar and Dishka positions, which is like an anti-aircraft gun. So that's when things really turned the tide for us. We identified a resupply route once we were up on that feature. It was a dried out wadi that we couldn't see from our original location. And they were using donkeys to bring mortars from Ginger over towards the Whale's Back, which were just objective nicknames. So we started to lay the hate on that supply line. And it got to the point where those guys would crawl on their stomachs in that wadi because they didn't know where we were. And we could just literally see them crawling. So we were extremely effective in shutting down that resupply route because the back of Ginger opened up to Pakistan, and we think a lot of their supply was coming in from there, and they were moving the supplies from Ginger all the way over to the Whale's Back. And the Whale's Back didn't have any other way of getting supplies to it, only that route. So we were able to shut down the fire that we were able to get from, or that we were receiving from the Whale's Back from the mortar positions. So that was about day 4, day 5, probably somewhere around there. We kept working in that area. Uh,
When you say going outside the box, is this a predefined kind of safety zone that you guys
so it,
have that
so
that everybody knows where like friendlies know where you're at, and they kind of keep that area safe. But once you leave that, it's you can have a bomb dropped on your
yeah,
ass
so
anytime.
you were told,
Is that
yeah,
kind of
so
how that
you were
works?
told during orders in Bagram that this is your operations box. This is where you're supposed to stay in. This is the safety zone, and you weren't to go outside that. We wore glint tape, we wore IR strobes, anything to identify ourselves as friendly to aircraft. I mean, it's easy to have blue on blue when you have all that stuff, let alone if you're going outside the operations box. But the thing was, Eric, is that we couldn't do our job if we stayed in there. The box didn't allow us to gain the high ground, and we needed the high ground.
So you guys get the high ground. You start identifying big threats and things that really need to be eliminated for you guys to advance your mission. Uh, you guys are successful at that. How you guys took out that what did you call it, a mortar
Mortar position?
uh,
Yeah.
position, and so now you guys know you have literally the high ground, because now you can see things you couldn't see. You can eliminate threats. Where do you go from there?
Well, it kind of give us an advantage too, because now having that type of high ground, shooting or engaging targets at lower altitudes, shooting slant angle, as we know, gives us a quite an advantage. And what we're starting to realize is that we're capable of engaging targets at longer range with accuracy. So no longer are we held to that 1,800 meter mark, which is what the McMillan Tac 50 technically was capable of when we received it. Even though we had proved that prior to deploying, um, now we're pushing out 22, 23, and we even shot like 26, 27. We didn't hit anything, but we were putting harassing fire down on a mortar team at those ranges. Um, but we were very successful on that resupply line that I spoke about. And so the shot that we made, we watched a three-man team making their way in from the area of the whale's back down that wadi back towards Ginger. Now we're just waiting for them to move into an area that we can engage. And we had tons of dope. We had already ran out of ammunition and been resupplied. So we deployed about 110 rounds and exhausted that pretty quickly. We're resupplied. So we're pretty busy in that area. We got some really good dope. The winds up there were not terrible at all. Like at times, yes, we had crosswinds, but we had some really good dope for that area. Those guys move into position and we watch them come in and they change direction. So we had hoped that they were going to keep coming down the wadi, but maybe because of the success we were having or they knew guys were getting engaged in that area, they start to turn and cut off the route. Now we made a decision then, said, okay, like let's engage these guys now. So we shoot, miss on the first shot. Him gives me a correction, and I mean it's within a second or two. Because as that shot's in the air, I'm already reloading, got around the chamber, waiting for feedback from my spotter. Gives me a correction, re-engage, and I could tell by the reaction, Tim, he's like, Puck, I think he hit his pack, shoot him again. And re-engage, and at this point between the second shot and the third shot, he runs and the three of them take cover behind a large, like I don't want to call it a boulder, but like mud type of position, like a rock. And they kind of got their back to us, totally facing the wrong way. They have no idea where that shot come from. And then we're successful on our third shot. But we had engaged targets at that point for 4 or 5 days in that area. So it's not like we literally got down behind a gun, pulled around out of my pocket, threw it in, bang. We'd already been shooting in that exact area for days, so we had some good knowledge of engaging targets there.
So describe what a confirmed kill is, because that's the difference, isn't it?
It
Between
is, what confirmed kills were in World War One, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, modern day, is if somebody is on the ground that is attesting to your kill, who will actually swear to that, or if you have proof. Other than seeing that guy just lie on the ground there repeatedly for days while we're in that position, nobody went up and took a picture of him or had any other way of doing it. I don't know what you could do to confirm to bring home as a trophy to show somebody, but we didn't really care, and I still don't. As long as we knew what we did, and what's funny at the time we didn't. It wasn't till we got back till Bagram and we were debriefed because we record everything. Everything we do is recorded. My shots that I fired on that operation were filled out in my data book. We get a little blue book for keeping record of shots fired. That was filled out. All the ranges that we shot, it was all in there. So when we get back, the Canadians are getting set up for a second operation, and just a sweep, basically to clean up what was left from Operation Anaconda, and it was called Harpoon. So they were going to now clear the whales back. So we were over towards Ginger, and of course, as soon as we're on the ground, I hadn't showered in 28 days. We land on the ground, and the commanding officer, the captain's like, in and see the commanding officer right now. They want to debrief you. And we were literally walking past a mess tent, grabbing a banana and stuff and something to drink, going to the mess tent. So we get in there, and it's a full debrief. And there was a sergeant major present, and he didn't say anything at the time. And once we were finished our debrief, all the command element was in there. We go outside the tent, and he said, "What do you guys want?" And I said, "Hey, is there a phone I can use?" Because I hadn't talked to anybody at that point. I've been in country a month. I'm like, fuck, I need to reach out to my parents. You know what parents are like, right? They're going to be a little worried. So I said, I wouldn't mind using the phone and trying to find a shower. So he looked at us as we were walking away. He goes, "Hey guys," he goes, "you know you made history, right?" And I'm like, "Is he talking about that we deployed? Like we knew we hadn't deployed since Korea and stuff." But he was talking about the distance. So that Sergeant Major was quite a historian, I guess, and realized what Carlos Hathcock's feats were. And he was present during the debrief and heard the ranges that we were engaging targets. So that was the first time that it kind of sunk home what we had accomplished there. But yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So you guys weren't trying to set records or anything. You guys were just trying to do what you needed to do.
Dude, it had nothing to do with that. Nothing. I didn't even fucking know what we were doing at the time. We were doing our job. That's all I was doing.
Yeah.
There was no. We weren't
Yeah.
doing cowboy shit. When we were putting our suppressing fire down on those mortars, it was literally to stop them from killing somebody. I wasn't trying to set records. I was literally laying harassing fire down on a mortar team because I didn't want them lobbing mortars down on us or any of our other guys.
Yeah. So you had a McMillan Tac 50? Is that the name? Tac 50?
Yeah.
What bullet were you guys shooting?
The ammunition that was loaded by General Dynamics had a Hornady A-tip 750 grain projectile. Now, when we ran out of 110 rounds, because that's all we took on us when we left Bagram for the operation. You got to understand too, Eric. I was told, or the team was told, we were going on a 48-hour mission. We were there for 11 days. So we never the shortest we planned for. That's our SOP is 72 hours. If we're going out for a half-hour operation, we pack for 72. That's our SOP. So, we ran out of food, we ran out of water, we ran out of boats, we ran out of everything, and they couldn't even get an airdrop into us. At one point, we were humping up to the mountains, melting snow, and bringing it back in empty 1 liter containers to give to people because we had the foresight to bring a whisper light with us. So I don't know if anybody watching remembers those, but it was just a little naphtha stove that was real compact. You put in your pocket and take a bottle and just pump it up to pressurize it. So we used to take that with our canteen cups, go up to the mountain, melt snow, and bring back so guys could have water. Mix it with iodine tablets because just, of course, we didn't know what we were drinking. So iodine tablets, and then put a little bit of like Kool-Aid mix in it to kill the taste. So we went through absolutely everything. And when we went through our ammunition, we got resupplied with American ammo. Um, there's nothing more that I can tell you about that because I've been squeezed by everybody, including one guy at SHOT Show about 5 or 6 years ago who told me he made that ammunition, and I did my best to describe it. So it was in like a 50-gallon ammo can, and it was all stacked on top of each other with separators, like little plastic separators, um, just individually stacked. Um, Yeah, there's no markings on it. It's not like
Oh,
it was Lapua or Hornady or Federal or anything. But yeah,
that's uh that's crazy to think that you guys went out for 48 hours. Supposed to be 48 hours, and you were out there for 11 days.
yeah.
So how do you? I can't even imagine at what point you say fuck it. Like I can't even start to comprehend because you run out of food, you run out of everything. Well, how do you survive out there?
You're hungry. You're tired, dude. You keep going. You can go 7 days before you starve to death. So we eventually ended up getting
No.
resupped. Yeah, you can go 4 days without water. You
Mm-hmm.
can go seven without food.
Yeah. God dang, man.
Yeah,
That's some crazy shit that you guys have to deal with out there.
it wasn't just us, bro. It was hundreds. It
On
was
top of that,
hundreds of guys. It was
on
hundred guys there.
and on top of that, you got a bunch of people trying to kill you.
Well, That's kind of what makes it interesting, I guess, and kind of keeps you motivated and keeps you sharp and not thinking about hunger and not thinking about sleep. Is that, yeah, there's some adversary out there trying to take you out. So that's all you're focused on.
Yeah. Um, so what has happened? So you make that shot, and I imagine that was just another day. I mean, probably it probably sounded pretty cool when they told you, but you just trying to get a shower and get some food in you, and call your parents, and priorities.
Yeah, we headed out the next
What
morning.
happens after that? After the what?
Yeah, we had a
You
we
went
had
back the
a
next morning.
yeah. We got back on the plane, went out the next morning to the same area. So we were just back. We were back 24 hours. We just refit, resup, used the phone, got a shower, and yeah, got back on the helicopter and went back out. We were out there for another 6 days, I think. Harpoon was.
Did so after this is all over, at what point was the fame? What time? At what point did the fame hit? I don't know if I don't mean to sound disrespectful. I don't know if fame is the correct word because it's
You don't have to apologize, brother. I
you've
know,
been
I know
hit
what
up.
you mean. Um,
You know what I mean?
yeah. So what happened was there's kind of a creed where we don't talk. There's certain things we don't talk about. We definitely don't talk about operations. We don't talk to media and stuff. So we finally get back to Kandahar a couple of weeks later, and that's where the Canadian primary base was set up. And they had embedded media. I have friends in media. I have nothing personally against the media. I think the media can be a great supporter, and we need that. We need the firearms community. We need it in the military community, the law enforcement community. We should never alienate our friends in the media. There's good media and there's bad media, but media do not belong on the front lines of war. And my friends will disagree with me. That's the wrong fucking place for reporters. You know, we all understand how steak ends up on the shelf in Costco. Doesn't come out looking like that. But nobody wants to see how it's done. Nobody wants their kids watching it. People are really turned off from how we get steak. But we love steak. Nobody wants to know how we fucking win war. So why does everybody want to see how we do it? Just understand that we go there, we do what it takes, and we win. And try to get as many of us back home as possible. As soon as you start putting the camera up front and you see how steak is made, that's where people back at home are like, fuck, I don't really like how you're doing that. Well, there's only one way to win. And I think that that's where we're going wrong. And again, lots of friends in media. This is not a personal thing against them. This has been me going through it where after we got off the operation, refusing interviews because now it's leaking out. It's the worst place to keep a secret is on a military base with a bunch of bored soldiers. So people start talking, and the embedded media are like, "Oh, tell me more." So then we start getting requests to have interviews. We're like, "Fuck no!" And then it come down. You're ordered. You will talk to the media. So CBC got exclusive permission. So you know how that works, Eric. It just come down from the higher levels of government and down to our commanding officer. You know, it wasn't the commanding officer telling us to do it. The orders coming from him, but he didn't wake up in the morning. He was like, "Fuck yeah, I want the media to talk to my fucking pipe hitters." No, he was told what to do. So we get ordered to do it. And first it was like, "We're not going to show your faces, and you don't have to use your real names." We're like, "Okay, sounds good." So we do the interview. So we did the first interview. I think I call myself Bill or whatever. And that satisfied the wolves for a little bit, we'll say. Then they had a guy embedded, and he was doing a Garth Pritchard was his name. You can look him up. So Steve is probably going to watch this. His buddy. He's another reporter, photographer. He's a friend of mine. He was good friends with with Garth, and some of this is going to hurt Steve. But so Garth is a documentary maker. So somebody at some point thought, you know what, we're going into war for the first time since Korea. I got a great fucking idea. Let's send a documentary guy over there. Let's really capture this and make history. So of course this guy gets permission to interview us. Bad feeling right from the fucking start, because we say to him, hey man, like, we don't want the camera showing our faces. Oh, don't worry about that, man. He said, we we could blur our faces out and stuff. And I remember, and if you watch the interview, I'm doing a lot of it like this because I don't fucking trust the guy. And I had aspirations of fucking going to higher level units when I got back. And one of those things is you don't want to exist if you want to try going to those units. So you definitely didn't want to be on the media. So anyway, this guy does the interviews, and nothing else was said of it. We weren't bothered by any more military. We carried on doing what we were doing for the tour. Then after the tour, they launched this documentary. So there's a private viewing for the battalion and all the members of Op Apollo, which is the Canadian battle group that went over to Afghanistan in 02. So we sit in this auditorium, and the documentary starts to play. It's about an hour long, and then it comes up to point where it's about the success snipers had. Bam, right there. Face is not blurred. Fuck all. And this thing is about to go live on media within 48 hours. So of course we get up and we talk to our warrant officer. We're like, hey man, like, that's not the fucking agreement. We went and spoke with that guy because we were ordered to, and we were told by him our faces were going to be fucking blurred. But this guy doesn't care. He just wants to fucking sell something. So now our faces are out there. So when people say, well, you kind of sought the light, I'm like, I didn't seek fuck all. I was ordered to talk to these guys, and my face and my name got out there because not by me asking to put it out there. Once it was out there, it was out there. It was done. That was the last interview I did with media. We got fucking hundreds of requests from every swinging dick you could imagine. So we get back to Canada, and an investigation is underway with one of our team members. Remember I said about fucking putting media in the slaughterhouse? So something come back to bite us. One of our team members was accused of doing something. Tore our team apart. One guy's talking to somebody, the other guy's flipping, the other. It just got fucking bad. Tore our team apart. So one guy's arrested. He's charged. We're being taken in. We're interviewed, threatened. We're interrogated. Not interviewed. We're interrogated. Yelling at you, telling you, you're going to lose your fucking career. You roll on this fucking guy. And we're like, dude, I don't know what to say to you right now, but whatever fucking witch hunt you're on, like, you just continue on it, but I don't know where you're going with this. So, long story short, he gets done, and then they're not happy with that. They want to dismantle the team. They want to get rid of our team lead. So this is now one of my best friends, Master Corporal Ragsdale. That guy is the epitome of a fucking walking sniper pan. This guy knows everything there is to know about sniping. He just lives, breathes, reads, regurgitates. He is what you need for a sniper team leader. So they said, well, we're going to charge this guy and just make an example of him because he was leading the team. So I say, well, we got to bring some light to this. There's only one way to bring light to this. Let's call the media. So they wanted an interview for a long while. And I said, okay, I'm willing to do the interviews, but this is what I want to bring to light. So we did one with Maclean's magazine. That was the way I wanted the article written, as to how it played out and how that it was unfair for Rags when he was kind of fucked over there. So my interviews were never me seeking out anything. The original ones were we were ordered to talk to him, and then the two initial that I did after, the one with McLean's, another one with CBC, were to bring awareness to what was happening with Rags, and because of that, we actually had the ombudsman do an investigation on that and found that he was wronged. So we sought it out, but it was never the intentions. I ended up getting out of the military after and went into policing and spent a few years there. But I never really wanted to leave. My intentions was never to leave the Canadian Forces. I wanted to keep going. I really enjoy what I do, and it took a lot of hard work to get there. And I have aspirations to go in higher level units. But I mean, the situation that we had play out over there at the end of the tour, because people don't like the way steaks are made, I guess.
Yeah, man, that sucks. So you get out of the military, you do some policing, you do training now. Is that what you do?
Yeah, started up a marksmanship school in 2012. So it's a place for the brotherhood. We'll say it's all Canadian Armed Forces snipers. A lot of guys, mostly from the 3rd Battalion, my old unit. So you got all these guys who get out with millions of dollars of training and just tons and tons of knowledge, and still a hunger for what we do. And what we do is we shoot, we teach, field craft, and spend time with one another. It's a place that I put together that civilians can come and receive training, military, law enforcement. We do domestic, we do international. But most of all, we got a really great brotherhood going of all of the guys from our old unit. And it's a place where we hang out because, our training facility is really in the middle of nowhere. It's about a 4-hour drive from the city. We're down there by ourselves. And after a day of training, it's great just to sit around with, guys cut from the same cloth and tell some of the same old stories over and over again, or some new ones from some of the younger guys, and kind of keep those relationships close. But that's probably my favorite part of it.
Yeah, that's some good stuff, man. So if somebody wants to get some training from you, how do they do that?
So you can
Where can
visit
they find you?
you can visit our websites, rfma.ca. On there's a list of courses we offer, course dates, and you can register right online, or you can give us a call, 587-990-7468. I'll most likely it'll be myself or one of the guys answer, and be happy to help you out.
So, I guess to recap, that shot or the record, is that one of those that are you glad that it happened, or you kind of wish it hadn't?
No, hell no. I think it's great, and not from like a personal view, but you look at what that shot take us away from it. What that shot did for sniping worldwide. It brought awareness to it. Before that, guys, literally, we had nothing. Somebody give us a credit card for we went to Afghanistan and told us to go out and buy some equipment. I wore British desert fatigues over there. We didn't even have desert uniforms. We went from a 6-man sniper cell in Recce platoon to now each unit has a sniper platoon with 18 full snipers in it. They have a sniper program. They have a unit master sniper, a brigade master sniper. They got equipment coming out of Yin Yang. It is a revered sniper program. We've had records set. We've had them broken over and over and over. And I keep hoping that they continue being broken because it brings awareness to the value of snipers on the battlefield. And as long as command is aware of our capabilities, they'll keep funding us. They'll keep giving us time to train. They know we're there, because for a long while we were kind of forgot about and put in the closet. And nobody really used us. So the shot, I'm really happy that that happened. Um, I think it really helped the sniper community. I think it helped the Canadian sniper program, and I think it brought awareness to sniper capabilities on the battlefield worldwide. So yeah, no regrets.
Yeah, good. How long did the record hold? For a
Craig
while.
Harrison broke that. I think 6 or 7 years later, if I may be mistaken, but I think it was there for probably about 6 years, and then it was crushed here recently by another Canadian sniper at JTF2 at 3450, I think it is. So
Crazy. Crazy. Uh, but I agree with you on the bringing spotlight to the capabilities of a sniper, because I remember hearing about that and I thought, holy crap, man, that's amazing. At the time, I wasn't into long range shooting yet. How long ago was that?
O2,
Uh, '02. Yeah,
yeah.
I wasn't a long range shooter yet, but I was kind of getting into it. About 99 or 2000 is kind of when I started kind of shooting guns, and I would just when I heard about that, I thought, holy smokes! Like because everybody kind of has the 100-yard range kind of as the standard, right? And to hear that somebody can connect at 1.5 miles, it it just kind of lets you know what's possible and how much we're holding back. Personally, at least that's how I took it, and it made me want to extend my range, and I became at some point a long range shooter, and happy to be here.
Yeah, me too, bro. It's a great sport. I love seeing people get into this. I hope it keeps growing and we keep pushing every single day. It makes the manufacturers work harder, more consistent bullets, better rifles, more consistent optics, all that good stuff. I think we're pushing that. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Thank you so much for having this chat with me. It was amazing. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Thank you. Take care.
You too, Rick.